So good morning, everybody. I'm Simon Vegro, and I welcome you all to another Redbourn Community Newsbite, now on Zoom and with an exciting new format. Now, since we may have new people joining each week, and we certainly hope that we do, there are a few things I need to say quickly in advance, so forgive me if you've heard this before, people that were on last week. So first of all, people joining are automatically muted with the video turned off for anonymity. Tried to say that this time of the morning. If you want to preserve your anonymity still further, you can change your name in Zoom. You can use the chat function to send questions or messages to me, which I'll endeavour to read, but please be patient because there's quite a lot of techie things going on. This is being live streamed. Our IT director and producer has just told me to Redbourn's Facebook page as we speak, so a very exciting technology. And later on, we'll be on the Active in Redbourn website as an audio file. If I have forgotten anything, that was the list I had last week, but if I have forgotten anything, this is the time for the producer and IT director to chip in and tell me.
You're good, Simon.
I'm getting a good to go, good stuff. I'm pleased that I haven't messed up. So we thought we'd mix things up each week and do something slightly different. Today, to keep you all on your toes, we're going to start with the lovely Kate Brotherton on a little sort of section we're calling Nature Calls, which wasn't quite my idea, but it's a lovely name. So Kate will be talking first about Nature Calls. Then Sally Bartlett will give us a quick update from the Redbourn Care Group. The lovely Colin Donovan from the Parish Council will give us an update from the Parish Council. The lovely Will give us a quick chat as well, and hopefully we can cover a little bit of the rugby with the Six Nations about to start. I'll read a short message from Liz at the Health Centre. Olive, producer, IT director, and a sort of over-empress will then give us a quick what's on. And then there will be the wonderful, much acclaimed, and can't wait for the episode 2 of the Snatch Ups. And remember, this is all brand new. We've not done it before, so it's important that we get feedback and ideas from you. So if you've got any suggestions, feedback, comments, please let us know. And another idea we've had is to get local businesses on the call from time to time. So we've already had a couple of local businesses that said, can we give a quick update to the village? We'd love to do that. So that's my quick intro. Without further ado, good morning, Kate Brotherton.
Good morning, everybody.
How are you, Kate?
I'm very well, thank you.
It's lovely to see you, as always. And you're going to be talking to us about trees on this Nature Calls session today, are you not?
I am. Shall I get going?
Please do. Yes, we're all looking forward to hearing from you.
I'm going to concentrate on conifers, obviously. So green at the moment. Most conifers are evergreen, and so they stand out against the bare branches. And it's fun to try to work out which conifer's which. And today we're going to start with the ones that have got short needles in sprays, in little whorls or rosettes. So there are 2 sets in this group, cedars, and there are larches. Now, the European larch is one of the very few conifers that's deciduous, so we won't get confused with those at the moment. But cedars have got all along their branches little whorls of short needles. And we have an iconic cedar in Redbourn, and I want to read you what our own long-time resident, a Redbourn resident, wrote. Stella King. St Mary cedar is my favourite tree because of its lovely spreading branches and the cones underneath. With my friends, I used to collect the cones and paint them different colours and put them in a basket. I see this very old tree and think of the people who have passed under it over all the years gone by. So that was from Stella King. And we can see on the screen the photographs that Pauline Ridgewell sent in to me when the tree branch, one of the tree's branches fell. And what she said was on Sunday, the 10th of December, 2017. It was just before the 9:30 service started, while we were ringing the bells. It was quite a loud crashing sound as we heard it over the sound of the bells. One of the bell ringers had earlier walked directly beneath it. He had a lucky escape. I believe 3 branches came down, but not all at the same time. Now the cedars at St Peter's, St Michael's, the Abbey and St Mary Redbourn each add to the beauty of the churchyards. they are all veteran trees, and there's just a chance that Countess Spencer, who planted the one outside the Abbey, did so at other churchyards, and that was in 1803, so they're very old. And also, Countess Spencer's great-great-great-great-granddaughter, Princess Diana, planted a cedar on the other side of the Abbey. So that's rather fun, isn't it? Can I just say one more thing about the cones of cedars?
Okay, yep.
The cones are very distinctive. They are barrel-shaped and they stand upright on a little stalk. And each scale on that cone is exquisite. It has an exquisite shape and a lovely, soft, tender touch on the inside of it, where each seed nestles inside its own scale. And the scale fans out round and then in and then out again with two smaller wings and down to a point. Truly exquisite shape. So those are the ways to identify cedar trees.
I'm always amazed at how much you know about trees, Kate. Where do you find all this out from, by the way? Do you? You've obviously got a huge passion for them. Is it?
Well, what happened was that I knew that trees had been planted for their historical connections by a chap called Paul Arnold, who worked for the Parks Department in St Albans in the 1970s. And there were such good stories, I wanted to write them up. I knew nothing about trees, but once I started looking at them and looking up into them, learning more and more about them as I had to, I just got hooked and found that I was absorbing information about them from all sorts of directions.
Well, we're very pleased you do, Kate. So keep that up, and we'll have you on again in a few weeks' time, because as we move into spring, which I'm sure we're all looking forward to, there'll be more things happening with the trees, I know. So thank you very much for that. Okay, I'd now like to chat to the lovely Sally. If are you still there, the lovely Sally? I can't see you at the moment on my screen.
Oh, that's probably no disadvantage, but yes, I'm here and I am unmuted this morning. So
good morning. How are you, Sally?
Good morning. Yep. Good morning to everybody. I'm very good. Thank you very much. Yep. Hope everybody else is.
Well, hold on. Just this is bizarre. The guy that sells plants door to door is just coming up the drive. What do I do? So, isn't it wonderful the way the world works? So he's got his little wheelbarrow with the plants. So we'll have to deal with him later. Anyway, sorry about that, Sally. So I'm a bit thrown there. So is everything going okay for you, Sally?
Yes, yes. So what I'd like to say is following on from last week when I mentioned that I discovered some research that demonstrated how important conversation was for our well-being and how even the most introverted amongst us should really seek out someone to talk to at some point every day. I thought this morning I'd just raise the issue of communication, which on the face of it sounds very simple. It's about transferring information from one person to another or from one group to another. But in reality, it isn't always that easy, especially in these times of lockdown when we all miss exchanging views and news and local events and what's going on. It isn't something we can take for granted anymore. It is a challenge. In Redbourn, of course, we've tried various forms of communication. We've dropped leaflets through doors and phone calls and posters on parish notice boards and Facebook and group emails and website pop-ups, all sorts of things. Communication in a relatively small community as ours can still be tricky. Now, I'm not talking about communication within a household. That's something I definitely won't go into. That's another completely different issue. I'm looking at communication in terms of making connections with what's going on. And to assist this, RCG have created and shared 22 newsletters since last April with the aim of trying to keep our community up to date with coronavirus stories, local stories, well-being activities, photographs, quizzes, and things of interest during this difficult period. Now, despite that, last week, I had several people tell me that they hadn't heard about the newsletters and asking why hadn't they received one and why didn't they know about them. Well, one of our very valuable volunteers found me a quotation. The problem with communication is the illusion that it has been accomplished, which absolutely hits the nail on the head. Now, I know there are residents who do not want to read a newsletter, or they may need a large print version or an audio version, and that is a possibility, and we could look into that if there was a demand. But in these times when our individual well-being is so important, I'd like to request that all of you listening and watching ask as many people as possible this week whether they've seen the newsletter, and if they haven't, can you let us know, and we can either post one through the door or we can add them to the mailing list. We do welcome feedback on the newsletters, and we're always looking for content, so do take us up on the offer, and I'll hopefully look forward to hearing from as many of you as possible this week. So thank you. That's all from me, Simon.
Well, thank you very much, Sally. And by the way, you're a wonderful communicator, so well done and thank you, and keep up the good work that you always do in the care group.
That's very kind. Thank you to everyone who's listening.
Good stuff. Now, the next thing is the lovely Colin, who I also can't, this is one of the things about Zoom is when you have all the, I'm sure we're all familiar with it, when you have the screens all over the place. I can't see him, but I know you're out there. So good morning, Colin. Oh, I can see you now, and you've gone on mute. You're unmuted. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning, Simon.
How are you
Good
today,
morning,
Colin?
Yeah, good. How are you?
Very, very, all the better for seeing you.
Thank you very much.
So, as everybody knows, Colin is one of my colleagues on the Parish Council and is an all-round lovely chap. And this morning, I think he's going to talk to us a little bit about the Common, this wonderful asset we have in the village. So, Colin, the floor is yours.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, just to everyone, I'm Colin O'Donovan, one of your Parish Councillors, and have been for about 20 years. So, it's up to you to get rid of me. You'll have to vote me out next time. I've got just a few facts and details about the Common to share with you today. Please don't quote me on them in case I'm wrong, but
I'm making notes, Colin.
That's mine. Approximately right. The Common was given to Redbourn Parish Council in 1948 by Lord Verulam to look after and to own. It has 183 trees. Kate might wish to know that. Which are all numbered. So we had a survey done 3 or 4 years ago, and we surveyed every tree on the Common. These trees sit on 15.5 hectares in size of this Common. We cut this up to 6 times a year by a lovely guy who cuts it. And although there are 4 areas we don't cut, only twice a year, due to conservation. We take advice from the Countryside Rights of Way Management Services to develop the harebells and all the other wild plants and flowers that we have there. The cricket club was formed in 1823, although cricket was played on the Common in 1666, we believe. The cricket club this year got to the final of the Village of the Year cricket competition, and they sadly didn't win it, but they've done very well to get that. And the final was played at Lord's without spectators, I'm afraid to say. Our grounds maintenance contractor has worked with us for the last 10 years. You might know him, John, and we really appreciate the work he does for us. Before him, his father Brian used to do the cutting of the Common for us. Did anyone know there used to be a golf course on the Common? In 1903, a 9-hole golf course was formed, starting and finishing at Cumberland House, I believe.
I didn't know that. That's very interesting.
And during the First World War, it was used as a rifle range. That's another bit of information.
Well, Colin, they were shooting golfers, were they?
Shooting golfers.
Okay.
So I think they stopped.
I've got nothing against golfers, by the way, just in case it's...
They're used as a rifle range in the First World War, and it has stored cattle over the years and over that period of time. The Common, in essence, remains the same, however, working with the Countryside Management Services, who helps us very much with the River Red as well. The River Red runs through the common down by the moor, and we've managed that in a way so it flows quickly, not too widely, to allow the vegetation to grow at the side of the River Red. In fact, we have a meeting this week with the Management Association to inspect it and to look at making it even better. I haven't really got much more to say on that part of it, but I've got a plea. As you know, we've had fireworks on the common for the last nearly 20 years, I think, apart from last year when the dreaded COVID put a stop to it. This year, we're not sure whether or not we can achieve fireworks at all. But if we had loads of volunteers like you good people out there to put their hands up and come and help us, we might stand a chance. But this all depends on the COVID regulations at the time. But as you might be aware, it takes a lot of money and a lot of time to organise a firework display. So we're bordering on whether it's too late to start organising it this year, although we still could at the moment. But without your help out there, you lovely people, we can't do that. So please contact me at the Redbourn Parish Council or the clerk at Redbourn Parish Council, and we'll go from there. That's my lot for today, Simon, if that's okay with you.
Yes, thank you very much, Colin. Just a quick one, it does seem a bit early to be talking about fireworks, doesn't it? When do you need to when will we need to sort of make a decision by, do you think, ish?
We don't normally order them in December.
Really? So we're already behind schedule then?
Yes, yeah.
Crikey.
So in January, we'll start organising the road closures, the health and safety, the police,
yeah,
and all the other stuff. Plenty. Oh, by the way, the fireworks cost about £5,000 to £6,000, so we don't want to do this without it going ahead.
Sure.
Although over the years we've built up a fund to cover it in case it should fail. So it doesn't cost the Parish Council any money, the fireworks. It's all by bucket donations and by raffles, so it's completely self-fundraising. Although the Parish Council are there behind us as backup if we do need them.
Okay, well, thanks very much, Colin. I do hope that obviously some people in the village do get behind it, and I'm sure everybody enjoys it and will volunteer to help. So keep us posted on that one, and thanks for joining the call today. We hope to have you on again one day soon.
Yeah, I'd be pleased to, yeah. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Colin. The lovely Colin Donovan, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, now, Will, I think you're, or should I say Phil?
Either.
Okay, good morning. How are you today?
I'm well, Simon. Thank you. How are you?
I'm exceptional today. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Your shirt is taking up quite a lot of bandwidth as usual.
Yeah, I've got a few of these, and I think, as I said last week, I hadn't worn a shirt in about a year, so I thought, why not wear them? If no other occasion, every Wednesday morning on these calls, I should wear a new shirt. Well, not a new shirt, but a different shirt. So hopefully it won't ruin the bandwidth too much.
It's very bright and cheery, Simon. It's lovely for this time of year.
Good stuff. So, Will or Phil, I wanted to talk to you quickly about the Six Nations, but before, that's just me being a bit indulgent, but before we do that, have you got anything particularly that you wanted to share with us today, or any thoughts or reflections or anything? Or
I was just going to follow up with something Colin said about the golf course on the common. I did know that, but only by chance, because in the communal lounge at New Forge Place, there's a framed picture with the layout of the 9 holes of that golf course. Now, obviously, the communal lounge at New Forge Place is closed at the moment because of COVID, but it's very interesting. And I wondered, it gave me an idea that perhaps we ought to do an article for Common Round that just shows that plan and talks a little bit about the history of the Common and the fact that it was used as a golf course for a time. It's really interesting how it was laid out and the different holes that were there. And it brought to mind a wonderful April Fool quite a few years ago now that was run by the Evening Standard, where they had put out a whole plan suggesting that Hyde Park was going to be turned into a golf course, and it got a lot of people going, and they were really quite concerned and worried about it until they looked at the detail. And there was one hole where you teed off from Hyde Park, near Hyde Park Corner, and you had to go over Hyde Park Corner and all the traffic into Green Park. And at that point, I think most people clicked and realised that that just wasn't going to work, and this was a spoof. But it did get a lot of people caught out at the time. It was quite fun. Actually, but the one in Redbourn wasn't an April Fool. That was actually real.
What we ought to do, Will, is when it comes to April the 1st, assuming we're still doing these things, we ought to see if we can come up with our best ever April Fool's jokes. I've got a really good one, which I'll save to then, which I remember hearing on the radio once.
Excellent.
Very funny.
Good.
Okay, thanks, Will. So we must quick talk about rugby. Forgive us all for those that aren't into rugby, but you all should be, because the Six Nations is about to start. So, Will, what are your thoughts on who's going to win? How are England going to do? How are the other home nations going to do? And what about the enigmatic France?
Well, lots of questions. I mean, it starts this weekend, and for me, it's a real sort of high point at a sort of a dull time of the year. I love the Six Nations. It's just a real joy. The bookmakers are never far off because that's their livelihood on the line, and they make England favourites at 2-1, and France 5-1. I think it's a bit tighter than that myself.
I do.
I think you mentioned about sort of enigmatic France. They've always had this reputation for being mercurial, and you don't know which France is going to turn up. On their day, they are world beaters, and I think they will be there or thereabouts. Ireland placed at 11-1. I think they are in a period of transition. I think they're still trying to get used to playing according to Andy Farrell's sort of strategy and approach to the game. I think they're also a little bit perhaps over dependent on their fly half, Johnny Sexton. If he stays fit and well, he is the linchpin of that team, and they're a difficult team to beat. Wales at 40-1. I think that might flatter them when Scotland is placed at 80-1. I think Scotland are a team on the move. I think they could be ones to watch. I think their back line is superb. The question will be whether they win enough ball. Italy at 500-1 are clearly ranked as the outsiders, but they're not lacking in some quality. I think for me, the Italian team, I mean, one of the things that might come out of the Six Nations is a farewell to Sergio Parise, who is a world-class number 8 player for Italy. I feel sorry for him in a sense that he hasn't had quite the strength and depth of a squad around him to be able to show his quality all of the time, but absolutely superb servant to rugby, and it will be great that he can have a proper farewell as part of the tournament. But I think Italy are always up for it. I'm always sort of impressed by the way that they kind of usually lose in the Six Nations, but are always so energetic and focused and so on. But it highlights the point really about sort of it's a squad game these days. It's not a 15 player game, and Eddie Jones has talked about the finishers, players coming off the bench. It really is a 23 player effort over the 80 minutes. And so for that reason, I think England and France are probably going to be fighting it out. But there are some interesting subplots if we've got time to talk about. There's the reintegration of Finn Russell after a big fallout with Gregor Townsend, the Scottish coach. So there's a lovely little sort of insight into sort of reintegration and forgiveness. There's Cameron Redpath, one of the new Scotland backs, who was also eligible for England and was named in an England squad but hasn't been capped. And he's chosen, following in his father's footsteps, to go with Scotland. And there's this whole question about player eligibility. There was a rather snide comment about the Irish squad saying how many of them had actually been born overseas, and were they truly Irish? Eddie Jones described them as the United Nations of Ireland, which I think was a bit pointed and below the belt. But I mean, although we changed sports, that's always been the case. If we look at England and cricket, if we were to talk about where people have been born and whether they should be playing, well, on that basis, Andrew Strouth, Alan Lamb, Robin Smith, Nasser Hussain, Kevin Peterson, and many, many others would never have played Test cricket for England. And I think it brings up a whole question about what does it mean to belong to a country, or, our nationality is always something I think rather less easily defined than some would try to make out. And I suppose my final comments about the rugby would be we're at the midpoint between between the last and the next World Cup, so that adds an extra dimension to the tournament for the Six Nations, but also particularly the summer and the possibility of a Lions overseas tour if that goes ahead to South Africa, although the Australians have also offered to host that if it's not possible in South Africa. Will add a dimension to the Six Nations in terms of which are the form players and the standout performances that might elevate different players being on that plane and part of the Lions teams that compete.
Well, you always, I mean, I don't know why I'm amazed anymore, but the amount of knowledge you have on just about every topic in the world is quite astonishing. I'd love to carry on talking to you about this, but the clock is ticking. But I think that's a really good analysis. Thank you very much for that. And let's look forward to a brilliant tournament. And yeah. I do hope Italy can get at least one win against anybody. I'd even potentially take one against England, who they've never beaten. So let's hope we get a really good tournament. So thank you, Will.
You're welcome.
Now, I'm going to read out before we have the moment we're all waiting for, I'm going to read out a quick update from the health centre today. So bear with me, everybody, while I look to the right here. The vaccine programme is continuing despite supply issues. Yesterday, most of our housebound patients will have received their vaccines. There were teams of 2 going around, a driver plus a nurse who could hop out. A lot of work went into planning the route so people in the same street were done at the same time, even if in St Albans they were at different surgeries. So some real teamwork going on to make things as efficient as possible. Okay, that was a sentence and a half. Today, Wednesday, we are vaccinating approximately 1,200 people. Wow. 74, 73 and some 72-year-olds. On Friday, Monday and Tuesday of next week, we'll be inviting our clinically extremely vulnerable patients. The model will change slightly. It will be a drive-through, so these patients do not have to get out of the car to keep them as safe as possible. How wonderful is that? We hope it's not getting too cold for the staff working outside. So brilliant work from the health centre there. And the final message they wanted me to read out today was that the surgery has a new partner. I hope I'm pronouncing the name correctly, Dr. Rani Bathia. Hope I'm pronouncing that okay. She joined the surgery in September and has become a partner since the 1st of January. So there we go. Hopefully that was useful information for everybody, and they are doing a great job. Now, before the moment we're all waiting for, or another moment we're all waiting for, our IT director, producer, Over Empress, has a very quick, I hope you like that title, Olive, has a very quick section on what's on. So are you going to tell us some things that are going on, Olive?
Yes, there's just a couple of things. I was walking around the common on Sunday morning and I was chased by a skeleton and a bumblebee who were chatting. And so I thought, what on earth is going on here? And so I had to find out. There was, the people in Run Redbourn were challenged to run 19 times in January. And they got 4 teams competing against each other to motivate everybody to get out there. And the final day's challenge was you get extra points for dressing up. And there were, if you look on the one of the Facebook pages, you will see lots of pictures of people dressed up. And as I'd just say thank you to Run Redbourn for cheering us all up. The second item was Sarah Shepherd, who and her team are doing a fantastic initiative to get hampers to key workers in hospitals, schools, offices, and even the vets. They've so far delivered 50 hampers, and more contributions are welcome. All you need to do is drop off contributions to Sarah at 1 Cooper's Meadow, especially individually wrapped items, things like biscuits, crisps, cakes, boiled sweets, mints, cereal bars, cup of soup, coffee sachets, hand cream and lip balm. So thank you very much to Sarah and her team for what she's doing, and don't forget to add your contributions. Now I must just, before we go on, I must just
You got that sort of IT director type look there, Olive.
Yes, I know. Just want to just a moment. I've lost my share screen button.
So it's a bad button to lose.
Yeah.
while you're looking for it, I wanted to have a quick chat with David before the Snatch Ups come on. Shall I do that, Olive, or shall I?
Yeah, yes, please do, and I'll find the...
Before you find your button.
Yeah.
Okay, so David and obviously all the wonderful Redbourn players, how are you all this morning?
Very well, thank you.
Hi, thank you.
For those of you that, oh crikey, for those of you that, hang on a minute, what have you done to my screen, Olive?
They've got our little flyer there that we provided for the.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for those of you that dialed in a little bit late, I don't know whether you know, David, but the Snatch Ups has now gone global. My sister lives in Toronto. She's seen it before, and it's now spreading across the east of Canada.
Oh,
how good is that? So the whole world.
Yeah, no, very exciting.
The whole world is up for it. So. So we're really looking forward to it. So if you're ready to go, I have a little thing to read out, and then we'll go straight into the episode.
Yeah, I was just going to say, firstly, because obviously the actors behind the scenes never get much credit themselves. So I just wanted to say, thanks to the colleagues that joined me, that throughout the series, Stan and Brenda Snatch Up will be played by Hilary and Mario Violentano. I play Tim, and Monday is Jane, and Martin Howe is joining us this week as Grandad. So it's just to give a little shout out to the people who are involved. So.
Wonderful. Thank you, David. So let's get going then. So now it's time for the second instalment of our new weekly serial, The Snatch Ups, which follows the turbulent lives of an ordinary family in a small Hertfordshire village, not unlike Redbourn. Still struggling to come to terms with the pubs being closed, the family are now having to cope with last week's shock news that Tim had lost his job.
I think Tim has reacted very well to the news that he was being made redundant. It must have been quite a shock for him, but he's picked himself up and thrown himself straight into a new challenge.
Deciding to become an environmental activist, not the sort of new challenge I was hoping for. Why can't he just apply for another ordinary job like most normal people?
The younger generation has suffered more than most in the economic downturn. It is them who are going to have to pick up the pieces and save the world from climate disaster.
Oh, don't you start. As far as I'm concerned, that Greta Iceberg, or whatever her name is, has got a lot to answer for.
Actually, Dad, Greta Thunberg knows exactly what she's talking about.
Oh, here he is. St Mary's answer to Swampy.
As your generation is killing this planet, greenhouse gases are out at the highest ever levels, there's a gaping hole in the ozone layer, the ice caps are melting, and you don't care.
Well, that's because it's all an exaggeration. We get a couple of hot summers and everyone panics. They're just trying to scare us into thinking that the end of the world is nigh so they can build a few more wind farms and sell more electric cars.
Well, that is just the attitude that is stopping anything happening. If we don't do something right now, it's going to be too late.
Don't listen to him, Tim. He still thinks the moon landings were a hoax. The only greenhouse gas he's aware of is when he farts in the conservatory.
Anyway, I'm protesting about something completely different today. I'm demonstrating against the decision by the District Council not to pursue the proposed segregated cycle lane between here and St Albans. That road's extremely dangerous. I mean, how many more accidents have got to happen before they actually do something? I'll see you later.
Bye, Tim, and don't get into any trouble. I really think you should be a bit more sympathetic, Stan. You can see how passionate he is about it. It's better than him sitting upstairs sulking in his room.
Well, I suppose you're right, but what's he going to do next? Chain himself to some railings to draw attention to the extinction of an evening bus service to St Albans?
Anyway, changing the subject, guess what Mrs. Busybody told me this morning? Phil Tibbs, the vicar, is going on Britain's Got Talent.
Well, he's been keeping that quiet. What's he done? Written the longest ever sermon?
It's not him, it's his dog.
What? His dog's written the longest ever sermon?
No. It all started on the community call that Active in St Mary's organised last year.
What community call?
Well, you don't remember it because you didn't like it. It was after you walked in and announced to all the listeners that you thought it was boring, that they had to mute everyone.
But what's that got to do with Phil Tibbs' dog?
Well, it kept barking during the musical items, and he realised that the dog had an ear for music. So he's taught it to bark along to famous hymns. He went along to the audition, and after a stirring rendition of Onward Christian Soldiers, he and Sweep were put straight through to the next round. Ant and Dec said it was one of the most talented dogs they'd ever seen.
Are we talking about the same dog, or has he got a new one?
He's going to be on the television. Everyone's looking forward to it.
Well, if the dog's that good, it should join the choir. That'll shake the morning service up a bit.
Morning all.
Oh, hello, Grandad.
Hello, Grandad. Have you been down your allotment?
Yes, I've been laying compost on the beds. I was going to plant some onions, but it was too cold to get my dibber out.
Are you sure you're all right?
Yes, never felt better.
It's just that you've still got your slippers on.
How's it going with that Mrs. Prodworthy? You've been spending a lot of time together recently.
Well, if you really want to know, I'm thinking of asking you to move in, you know, when all this is over.
Mrs. Prodworthy?
Are you sure, Grandad? I mean, it's a big step.
Oh, don't worry about that. I can put up a handrail.
No, I mean moving in. It's a bit sudden.
Well, I'm not getting any younger. And this coronavirus epidemic, well, it makes you reevaluate things. Makes you realise how little time you might have left. How precious life is. Now I've had my job, I can finally start to look forward again and have hope for the future. And I want someone to share my life with in my twilight years. And I've also been reading about the benefits of Viagra.
Grandad!
Oh, I knew there was more to it. There are side effects, you know, like dizziness and headaches. Too much and you could give yourself a heart attack.
What does Mrs. Prodworthy think about it?
Well, I think she's got sore misgivings.
Has she seen a doctor about it?
She's not sure it's a good idea.
Perhaps you ought to leave it for now. Give her time to think about it. After all, there's no rush.
Hiya, Mum, Dad. Hello, Grandad.
Hello, Jane. What have you been up to?
I've been on a socially distanced walk with Gary.
Oh, so you're still seeing him then?
Yes, although I don't know what you've got against him, just because he dropped out of sixth form to go into the building trade. One small mix-up and you've never forgiven him.
A small mix-up? What builder accidentally buys luminous paint? Our garden shed glows at night like something out of Doctor Who. You can probably see it from space.
Well, it was an easy mistake to make, and at least he's got a job. He's working on the new Maris Meadow development in Dunstable Road.
Well, that'll set their completion date back by 6 months.
Anyway, while we were out walking, we noticed how nice all the planters around the village were looking, even at this time of year. St Mary's in Bloom do a really fantastic job planting and tending them, and they brighten up the whole place. We should make more effort, Dad, with our garden. It makes such a difference. Hello? Yes, it is. He's done what? He's been taken where? Oh, yes, I understand. We'll come at once.
Who was that?
That was the police. Tim's been arrested for criminal damage and obstructing a highway. Oh, he may go to prison.
What? And on that bombshell, we must leave it for this week. Will Tim's fight to save the ice caps from melting land him in hot water? Will Stan ever get on with Gary? Will Phil Tibbs get through to the next round of Britain's Got Talent? And will Grandad persuade Mrs. Prodworthy to move in with him? All will be revealed in next week's exciting episode of The Snatch Ups.
Wonderful. Well done, everybody. I can't believe the cliffhangers you've left us there. There's so many of them. So that's just too much to have to wait for another week, but I guess I'll have to. So well done, everybody. So that's it for today's Zoom, everybody. Thank you so much for dialing in, all the lovely speakers and all the people that have dialed in as guests. Don't forget to give us feedback and ideas for the future, because we're learning all the time. And as you can see, with screen sharing and gardeners wandering up the drive, who knows what's going to happen next. So have a great time, everybody. Stay safe, follow all the rules and the guidelines, and we look forward very much to seeing you all next Wednesday morning at 11. Thank you very much, and have a nice day. Bye, everyone.
Yeah. Thanks, Simon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.